the FBI might recruit me if I solve this.
Maybe. I mean, the truth is, it says it still haunts the FBI. I don't think it's like unsolved. I just think it took them a long time to solve it.
Maybe.
I smell like cinnamon. Sorry. It's like the randomest thing. I keep smelling cinnamon. It said cinnamon.
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 I can't smell anything now. My nose
is always fucked up. I keep... Oh, gosh. I remember back in school...
I think I know what it is. It's where I changed the wall plugins at your mama's house, and I had it up against my shirt.
Probably. But you saying cinnamon... I remember...
Cinnamon.
You remember whenever people learned about, synonyms and antonyms?
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I knew a girl who could not say synonym to save her life. Instead, she just kept saying cinnamon.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, the dead man's riddle still haunts the FBI, according to Mr. Ballin. And honestly, that doesn't surprise me because...
I like his flannel.
Yeah, it's a good flannel. I mean, he wears flannel a lot in these videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good motif for him. Also, always the backwards baseball cap, too. I always see him wearing the backwards baseball cap and having sort of like the dirty stash. Not like quite the full scruff like what me and Nick got going on. But,
Me too. I'm just kidding.
You're the most rugged of the renegade.
I was going to say this.
I'm what?
Said you were for sure the most rugged of the renegade crew.
Yes.
Yeah, me and my cat teacher.
Supremely rugged. Look at you.
Say, Mr. Furry Pants.
Disorderly
conduct, bad catitude. Yes.
Yeah. And then me, all I'm repping is
Vega.
All I'm repping is the Gamers Lounge.
It kind of does look like Vega, actually.
Kind of. I'm repping the Gamers Lounge, which, love those guys. They just reopened. Happy about that. And
I'm repping an anime that Kate still needs to watch and catch up on.
My Hero Academia.
This is awesome.
My Hero Academia. Yeah. It's a good one.
Also, if anybody's wondering where the cats are, we are...
You
terrified
get
that
one of two things in life. You either get nice furniture or you get cats. You cannot have both.
Well, you can have both.
But you must keep them separate.
Yeah, you gotta keep
No,
them
you can't
separate.
have both exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Fair.
They must occupy
cats must
different
exist
spaces.
up there so that these can continue to exist in their intact state down here.
Yes. and
Asher he's well aware that he cannot fit, nor has he tried to fit in these chairs.
Mm-hmm.
So he's down there having a nap.
Yeah.
On his Serta bed.
But
with his mouth like...
But he also has the option to get on that love seat back there, which we did have an Asher cam at one point on him.
And he's got the option to go back there and chill if he wants to. But for the most part, we ever since we've gotten these new Valencia theater seats, it's just all of a sudden it's like we don't want anything bad to happen to them. So we're just taking it easy.
Because they are premium Italian leather and very nice.
Yeah. Kate, we've already done all the advertising for
I know.
But we've already done all the advertising we need to do. But a little extra can hurt.
Yeah.
It's like primo Italiano.
What was that line that you said on the video? It was like something.
He's like fragile.
Fragile.
Must be Italian. Oh yeah, the Italian flag and Valencia didn't tip you off.
Yeah, that was. And then we had the Kate in a box, which was...
Somebody said I look 60 years old while I was leaning over that box saying that, by the way. And I was just like, I am 60 years old at heart. You darn kids.
You darn
Get
kids.
off my lawn.
Darn kids.
Get out of here.
Let's get into the video.
Let's just go, yeah, because we've been ranting for 5 minutes. It has not been our night, everybody. The universe has just done everything it can to fuck us over.
Yeah.
So, we're just going to enjoy some Mr. Ballin'. Hopefully y'all enjoy it too. Let's get into it.
Send some good vibes our way.
Don't elaborate on this. We just came down here to water out there. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Anyways, video.
Did you know that the FBI has a world-class code-breaking team? Basically, their job is to decode any encrypted evidence. So imagine coming across a piece of evidence that appears to have secret messages embedded inside of it. It's the job of these brainiacs on the decoding team to go in there and figure out what those secret messages are. Now, this decoding team is incredibly good, but periodically they do run into
like,
that are just
we're only a couple seconds in. You can't have something to say right now.
Yes, I can. I could have already said like 3 things, but I'm holding my tongue because, damn it, I don't want to hold this up any more than we already have been. Like, for instance, he said Brainiac, like the Superman, like the Superman villain. Gee, I wonder why they called him Brainiac in the. Why did they call him Brainiac? I don't know.
It's too late. You caused him to self-sabotage.
Exactly, you see?
Damn it.
Appeal to the public and say, hey, anyone out there,
he's
if you
just
can
doing it to
solve
prove
this
a
riddle,
point.
let us know. And so today's story will involve one of those types of
I am a master of
riddles.
wasting time.
And if you stay till the end of the video,
Trust me.
you'll actually see the mystifying evidence, and I'll show
as
you
evidenced
where you
by
need to
my
go
life
online to literally.
Well, for real, I would love to
FBI
have a
solve
job being
this.
like a decryptor. Like
That would be cool.
Oh, yes.
I love puzzles.
Well,
so.
you know, that's
Just
one
all
reason.
the experience I don't have.
That's one reason why I
have to
can't wait for us to play Alan Wake 2. Because I can't wait to see the puzzles that Chad kept talking about unleashed onto you to see how you react to them.
Is that game out?
If you hadn't have spoiled it, I probably would have been like, "Whoa, there's puzzles this time. Nice."
There were puzzles in the first one.
Nah, not really in terms of what I consider puzzles.
But in terms of how Chad explained it to me, I'm not going to explain it to you because I don't want to spoil any more than I have. But the depth is just ridiculous in terms of like where the puzzles go.
We haven't even gotten to a minute.
We're almost to it.
Pause it twice. Sorry.
Are you not used to this by now?
I am. I'm just like, damn it. It's okay.
Just like the more she points it out, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Riddle.
I try to
Before we
stay
get into
quiet.
that story, if you're a fan of
No, but that's the thing. We don't want you to stay quiet.
No,
We
I'm
want you
talking
to be
about
active.
about what you do. Like, I'm just like, okay.
Okay. Just like I can just see the. I just see that old vine. Like, hello. Okay.
the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button takes their full kitchen trash bag out to go out to the dumpster, immediately throw an open container of clam chowder into their empty can before they can come back and put a new bag in.
Oh my
You're
god.
a dick.
For a channel and turn on
Wow.
That would be so disgusting.
I was gonna say, Mr. Ballin, you missed an opportunity to show off your inner Massachusetts. Just be like, you should have thrown in some clam chowder. Yeah.
So you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
At least I think that's where. I think he said he was from Massachusetts.
I think so.
I may be just making a fool of myself. Some clam chowder.
I'm sure you'll hear about it
Maybe
later.
not from Boston, Massachusetts, though.
At around 5 o'clock in the
clam
evening
chowder's
on
not
June 25th,
exclusive to Boston.
1999, a man named Ricky McCormick stumbled into an emergency room in St. Louis, Missouri, with his hand over his chest, complaining that he couldn't breathe. He said he had asthma, and earlier that day he had been cutting the grass, and so maybe that had caused a flare-up. But either way, here he was in a lot of discomfort, saying, I need help. Ricky was 41 years old, and for his whole life, he had had heart and lung problems, and so him arriving in this state in the ER was actually not all that uncommon for him. And so this hospital did what they did with anyone who came in complaining that they couldn't breathe. They immediately took Ricky to a back exam room, and they hooked him up to all these monitors to make sure his heartbeat was steady and that his oxygen levels were plenty high. And once Ricky was in the exam room getting hooked up, he started acting really agitated, and he kept looking around the room like he was scared that someone was going to jump out at him. And he was also sweating profusely, and whenever he did speak, he spoke so quickly no one could really understand him. But despite Ricky's odd behavior, the heart monitor showed his heart was beating steadily, his oxygen levels were perfectly fine, and when the doctor came in and examined Ricky, even though he clearly saw that something was off about Ricky, there wasn't any sign that there was anything physically wrong with Ricky. And so the doctor and the nurses agreed that whatever was going on with Ricky had to be psychological. And as it happened, Ricky did have a long history of psychological issues. He was known for making things up all the time, just telling people these crazy stories about himself, like how he was this talented singer and he was about to go on tour.
Not a real photo of Ricky. Proceeds to show Prince. Just like Prince Nelson. It's like
Purple rain, purple rain.
No, I think for this motherfucker we need to go, let's get crazy.
Oh, yeah. That would have been perfect. Why didn't I think of
Let's
that?
go crazy.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's your favorite Prince song.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or that he was actually a prince, or that he was studying to be a doctor. I mean, things that nobody thought was true, but Ricky would say as if this is just common knowledge. This is who I am. And so Ricky's family for the longest...
You're welcome. You are welcome, Kate. Enjoy that.
If we didn't get a copyright, if we weren't going to get a copyright, I would turn it on.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today
to get through this thing called life.
Exactly. And we're also gathered here today to get through this damn video.
Yeah.
This time had just assumed that Ricky was either bipolar or maybe schizophrenic. Those are both serious mental health disorders that totally disrupt normal thinking. But Ricky, despite being encouraged by his friends and family to go get help, never got help for any of his psychological issues. And so Ricky's life had kind of gone off the rails. He had dropped out of high school and not gone back to any sort of schooling, and he had spent some time in jail. Now, Ricky was living in a low-income, very dangerous part of St. Louis, which is a big Midwestern city on the Mississippi River that in 1999 had a very serious issue with gang violence. Ricky absolutely hated it there, but he had no way to actually leave St. Louis. In fact, Ricky didn't even have his own place. He bounced around from his mother's place, his aunt's place, and his girlfriend's place. Ricky did work, but the work was very sporadic, and it was for the most part just night shifts for random odd jobs. And when Ricky was actually working, he really just spent his time chain-smoking cigarettes and drinking literally gallons of coffee. Back at the ER, Ricky, who was still in the exam room...
Switch that for monsters, and I'm just like...
I don't chain smoke.
I'm joking.
Although I probably would if I didn't have
Sorry,
snooze and a vape. So.
What?
I might if I didn't have snooze and a vape, but even when I
Also,
only did
if
cigarettes,
it wasn't so
I always,
expensive.
Yeah,
right?
I always did my best not to chain smoke. But yeah, the taxes they put on them recently, it's almost $10 a fucking pack here now.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it's not as bad as West Coast, but it still.
Oh God,
sucks.
For me, I chain smoke cigars. I'm just like... Yeah. Kate's got vapes.
Had only been there for less than an hour when the doctor came back in and told Ricky that he was okay and he was going to be discharged. Now, Ricky immediately said, no, I have to be here tonight. I need to stay here. You need to admit me. But the doctor just kind of ignored what he said and handed him the discharge paperwork. 15 minutes later, when a nurse came back into the exam room to get this paperwork from Ricky, she would walk in and see Ricky still sitting on the exam bed, kind of fidgeting around, looking down at this paperwork on his lap that immediately she saw he had not filled out. He had just signed his name at the bottom. And when she walked in, Ricky looked up at her and he kind of shrugged his shoulders and looked at her and was like, I don't know how to read or write. Can you help me? And so the nurse immediately felt bad for Ricky. I mean, he's got dirty clothes on. He looks thin and frail. He's clearly very down on his luck. There's some issues happening with this guy, and he can't even fill out his discharge paperwork. And so she said, no problem. She sat down with him, and together they filled out his paperwork. And then afterwards, when she walked him out of the exam room back to the front of the hospital, Ricky turned to her and said, you know, instead of going home, can you just let me stay here in the lobby just for tonight? And this nurse, who knew she was not allowed to do this, she looked around and saw it was not a busy night there, and so she said, okay, as long as you don't bother anyone, you can stay here. And so Ricky thanked her repeatedly and then walked over to the corner, kind of far away from the front desk and far away from the front door, and he sat down and folded his arms, and then he just stared at the front door. And so this nurse assumed that Ricky actually must be homeless, especially based on, you know, how he came in and how he was acting. And so she figured, you know, he needs a place that's warm to stay tonight. And so
I'm thinking he knows somebody's after him.
Yeah, someone's after him, or... Damn. Big snore from the boy down there. It's like all of a sudden, it's like someone's after him. Like,
it's me, I'm after him.
Are you gonna go give him licks, Asher?
Yeah.
Asher.
I'm gonna steal out his food too.
He opened his eyes, staring up here like, what?
Asher.
Why are you
Asher
waking me up?
Asher.
There he is.
What
He's
are you
moving.
doing?
Hey,
I'm
bud.
trying to have a dang nap. What are you doing?
Oh,
Wake
there he
your
is.
ass up. Hi.
Oh,
I just wanted
why?
to see your pretty face.
He's like,
You can go by sleep.
he's like, Mom.
You're
why'd
okay.
You wake me up?
You should have seen him because I was hiding there to scare you earlier. And he kept hearing me because I crawled. I turned off the lights and then I crawled to hide behind this curtain on the other side.
Yeah.
And
After I just got done
he heard
ringing
me.
out.
He heard me and he comes around and he's like looking, and then he didn't see me at first, and then when he did see me, he like came and he did zoomies around the pool table. Licked me in the face.
I swear, I just came in from outside after wringing out these 2 towels. Or it was one. No, I wring out a towel and Nick wring out a towel. Sorry.
I ran out 2 times.
Yeah, and I brought them in. I brought them in, and as I was walking around, all of a sudden, and I was just like, and I like about
You about threw the towels at me.
I was just like, ugh!
But I got attacked by Asher
Would have been
again.
funny if you just went like damp towels, just like
Oh.
that didn't go how I expected.
Yeah. Well, I was expecting him to like kick me or something.
No, I wasn't gonna kick you.
But then he was like, well, I'm glad you got a laugh because you're about to be pissed off. And I said, and I was like, oh, hell. And then we go out there and there's a bunch of shit. There's a shit ton of water.
Yep.
Under all the shit I just painted for the cat room. So, there's that.
So he was right. She was pissed off.
Yeah.
The course of the next several hours, she would periodically look out into the lobby, expecting to see Ricky kind of curled up asleep in the corner. But every time she looked out there, Ricky was still sitting upright, arms folded, staring at the front door of the hospital.
Yeah,
as if
because
he was expecting someone to come in at any moment, and he needed to be ready.
Needed to be ready to sprint for whatever his exit plan was.
I guess as soon as he sees who's ever after him, whoever's after him,
He's probably going to run towards the front desk and dive over it or something.
maybe. But he definitely doesn't want to go home.
Nope.
Ready. And so she thought this was unusual, but she decided not to intervene. She just let him sit there and do his thing. Later that morning, at 11:30 a.m., when the nice nurse who had allowed Ricky to stay in the lobby was leaving her shift, another crew of nurses came in, and right away they noticed Ricky was just sitting in the corner for no apparent reason. And when they walked up to him to ask if he was okay, you know, what are you doing here? What can we do for you? Ricky, instead of trying to talk to any of these nurses, just got up and walked out of the hospital. After leaving the hospital, Ricky walked to a nearby payphone and he called his girlfriend, Sandy. And when Sandy picked up the phone, she immediately recognized her boyfriend's very familiar voice, but she also picked up that he sounded really tired and kind of out of it. And so when she asked him, you know, are you okay? What's going on? Ricky would tell her that he had just spent the night in the hospital. But he didn't clarify that he had spent the night in the lobby of the hospital, not admitted as a patient at the hospital. But to Sandy, it really didn't matter because already this was raising red flags for her, because this was actually the second time that Ricky had gone to the ER just that week. Just a few days earlier, Ricky had been released from a different hospital in St. Louis after telling doctors there that he had had these chest pains and he couldn't breathe, and so he had been admitted for a couple of days, but ultimately they determined that there really was nothing wrong with him, and they too believed whatever was happening with him had to be psychological, and so he had been released. Additionally, Sandy had been growing increasingly worried about Ricky because over the last several weeks, Ricky had begun acting really paranoid, to the point where anytime he was in her apartment and somebody outside the apartment just walked down the hallway, Ricky would jump as if he was worried whoever was out there was going to barge in at any moment. But whenever Sandy asked Ricky, you know, what's going on? Why are you so paranoid? He refused to elaborate. So, feeling very concerned about Ricky, on this phone call, Sandy would say to Ricky, please come to my apartment and let me take care of you. If you're not feeling well, I'll make you feel better. Just please come to my apartment right now. But Ricky said no, he did not want to go to Sandy's apartment. He told her instead he was going to walk to a nearby gas station to get a bite to eat, and then afterwards he would give Sandy a call. And so the two of them agreed to this plan. They hung up. But then, Ricky did not call Sandy later. A worker at the gas station where Ricky said he was going would later tell authorities that Ricky did come into the gas station and he got a hot dog on that day, the 26th. And then the next day, this same worker said, yep, we saw Ricky again. On the 27th, he came in here, he got a bite to eat, and then he left. But after that, nobody saw Ricky. Not his aunt, not his mom, not his girlfriend. He didn't show up in any other emergency rooms in Missouri. He just disappeared. On June 30th, so 3 days after Ricky was last seen at this gas station, a woman was driving her car 20 miles north of St. Louis on this highway when she looked out into this cornfield that butted up against the highway, and she saw kind of in the middle of it was this dark shape that looked totally out of place. And so she was intrigued enough that she actually pulled over on the road. She got out and began walking into this cornfield to see what this...
Okay.
Oh, hell no.
It's like, okay.
Nope. I ain't never doing that.
Okay, there's a level of dumb white people shit that you gotta get to.
This is on. For sure.
There's a spectrum of dumb white people shit. This is like an 8.5 on the dumb white people shit scale. And
now we did purposefully go into a corn maze, but
that's the thing.
We had a map, and we also were in a group.
We weren't also looking at a shadowy figure out in the middle of the cornfield and being like at random, being like, huh, I want to see what that is.
Oh hell no, I ain't doing that.
If I see something in the cornfield, I'm literally like pulling out like my phone and I'm doing a zoom in on it.
I'm gonna wear tennis shoes. I don't care about looking fashionable. Like those Doc Martens got so muddy.
Yeah,
I was so mad.
I'd probably call Nate and I'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" Be like, "Can you come over to this cornfield over on the side road?" My mind immediately says it's probably like over there where we released the mouse the one time. You know?
Yeah, I
probably
remember.
describe it like near where we let the mouse go. And then when you got there, I would consider like whether or not we should go into the field to see.
Literally, you could just say to me, Nate, also bring your shotgun.
Yeah.
It's like consider bringing a gun.
Because
shotgun's probably not the best idea if you got something that's easier to conceal. Because if we're just walking into somebody else's cornfield, but what did pop into my head is like maybe this is like an old badass white lady that did have a shotgun in like her truck bed, and she was like,
nah, this strikes me as more like like Midwestern mother who is just like is nosy. She's just like I'm gonna report you,
Karen or something.
It's like I'm gonna report you to the neighborhood watch if you don't get out of our cornfield.
Yeah,
that's what I imagine.
Well, let's find out.
Thing was. And when she got up to this thing and saw what it was, she froze in horror, and then she screamed, turned around, and ran back to her car, and she flew to the nearest gas station.
Somebody set him up like a scarecrow.
And she called 911.
Also, this has to be like pre-cell phone.
Yeah, because it's 99.
Yeah, everybody's using payphones.
So.
Yeah.
When the police arrived at this cornfield, they too walked out towards this dark thing, and then finally they saw what this thing was that had scared this woman. It was a dead person who was lying face down. Their body was very badly decomposed, and in fact, their body was just kind of falling apart, like the fingers of this person's body had just kind of crumpled off of their hands. Now, based on what this person was wearing,
how did she see
they
that
appeared to be
from
male,
the road in a
but there was
cornfield
no
if
way
they were
to
laying
tell
on the ground?
I don't know
how this person died, or really how long they had been dead for. But despite the advanced decomposition, authorities were able to get a good fingerprint, and it would turn out that this body belonged to Ricky McCormick. The day after Ricky's body
you can
was
depose,
found,
like, bodies decompose that fast within a couple of days?
It's something to do with what happened to him.
I think...
Okay, so natural decomposition, the fingers are not going to separate.
Within 3 days, no.
No.
My guess is
it takes like
where he's out in the cornfield. I would say that they probably
like find animal,
like an animal, like the crows maybe picking at him.
But the way that he said that they fell off of him. Like I don't know. Let's just figure out. We gotta
come out and say they were treating his death as a homicide. This area along this highway in this cornfield was actually a fairly common place for murderers to dump their victims. And it was very unlikely that Ricky had
and that
gotten
lady
there
just
by
stopped
himself.
there.
He didn't have a car. In fact, he didn't even have a...
She could have been added to the statistics.
Oh my god.
It's like, well, lady, you're about to be added to removed from the census.
Driver's license. There was no public transportation that could have brought him to this spot, and if Ricky had decided to walk to this area for some reason, it was a solid 15 miles from where he lived and worked. Also, Ricky's body was way too decomposed relative to when he had last been seen alive, just 3 days earlier.
Yeah, that's not...
And so there was a theory that perhaps he was killed somewhere else and then kept indoors in heat, and that had accelerated his decomposition, and then at some point whoever had killed him had moved his body and dumped it in this cornfield. And so on that first day of the homicide investigation, July 1st, the police put 18 detectives, so a ton of detectives, on this case, and they also appealed to the public to come forward if you had any information about what could have happened to Ricky McCormick. But just a day later, on July 2nd, the police came out and made an announcement that, after looking at all the evidence and looking at Ricky's body again, it did not appear, in fact, that he had been murdered, but instead he must have died of natural causes. This is a guy that had lung and heart problems, and so that is likely what killed him. Case closed. And so after this announcement, all of the evidence in Ricky's case was bundled up, put into storage, and people just kind of forgot about it. 6 months later, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, got a tip that involved Ricky McCormick. They were working on a case in St. Louis, Missouri about this major drug dealer who apparently was ordering hits on his rivals, and a confidential informant came forward and told the FBI that this guy, Ricky McCormick, had gotten wrapped up with this major drug dealer. But they didn't really know what role Ricky was playing with this drug dealer. It was just kind of a rumor on the street that, Ricky was involved somehow. This did not make any sense to the FBI because they're thinking, why would this big-time drug dealer who really was a mover and shaker in St. Louis get involved with this guy, Ricky McCormick, who was obviously deeply mentally ill and borderline homeless? I mean, what role could Ricky play for this drug dealer? But the FBI still did follow up.
Ricky was moving drugs for one of his rivals.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
To make ends meet.
Because it was very credible, and when they spoke to the local police who had investigated Ricky's death, they got Ricky's file, which meant they got all of the evidence, and immediately the FBI realized the local police had overlooked a very strange piece of evidence found in Ricky's pocket. This strange evidence was quickly sent to FBI headquarters in Quantico, Virginia, and it landed on the desk of a forensic analyst named Dan Olson. Dan was relatively new to the FBI, but he was highly disciplined and very methodical. And so when he received this piece of evidence, he got to work right away trying to figure out what it was, you know, what it meant in relationship to Ricky and this drug dealer, and, you know, maybe does it answer the question of how these people are connected. But despite his best efforts in calling in the experts and using every computer program to analyze this evidence, he just could not figure out what it meant. At the same time that Dan was doing this, the big drug dealer who was the target of that big FBI investigation in St. Louis was arrested on gun and drug charges, and so the big case was now over. And suddenly, trying to figure out what connection Ricky McCormick had to this drug dealer was kind of irrelevant, because the drug dealer was behind bars and Ricky was already dead. And so the FBI kind of put a pause on trying to figure out what this evidence was. And so Dan, even though he was really curious now, he was fully invested in trying to figure out what this thing was, he realized he had to give it up too and move on to something else. And so the strange evidence went back into storage, and once again, everyone just kind of moved on from Ricky McCormick. But Dan never really forgot about this mystifying piece of evidence. It was always in the back of his mind. 22 years later, Dan Olson had now become very senior at the FBI. He was actually in charge of their cryptanalysis and racketeering unit. Basically, he was in charge of the people at the FBI who specialized in code breaking, meaning they were the people that would pull any sort of secret messages embedded inside of evidence. And so at some point after taking over this unit, Dan pulled out of storage this strange piece of evidence connected to Ricky McCormick, and he said, you know what? I just need to know what this means. I have to figure it out. I've never been able to. It's haunted me ever since. And so Dan went public. He went to the media and he asked the world to take a look at this mystifying piece of evidence and come forward if you have any idea what it means. When Ricky was discovered in that cornfield, the local police quickly emptied his pockets. And in his pants pocket were 2 documents that contained an incredibly complex cipher or code. It was basically 30 lines on each piece of paper with different symbols and letters and capital letters.
Pause
I mean,
it
it looked like...
What you need is, you would need a key phrase or something to decrypt it. But there's nothing here.
That's part of the reason that they have this department at the FBI, because us just sitting here looking at this, we're never going to be able to get anything from it. But when you start having a lot of experience with how these things work, you start to see patterns, because a lot of these are based off of other things like them. If you put this kind of thing on the internet right now, you'd probably have your answer in about an hour or less. Because there's so many people online. Well, not just that, but there's so many people online that essentially have the same experience as FBI agents of looking at this kind of stuff and working with it just as a hobby. So, like, you throw this on Reddit, they'll tell you the answer in, like, less than an hour, I bet you.
Probably.
But, yeah, like, now, like, back when this came out, I don't think Reddit was a thing, and the internet wasn't as popular.
Yeah.
But, like, in current day information age, like, I've always kind of wanted to get into, like, the, you know, ciphers and figuring out how all that works, but for some reason it's just one of those things that I never put the time into. But that would be a kick-ass job to have, to just start to know. They look at this looks like it could be related to, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like a useless, useful skill that, like, I would like to have. You know what I mean?
No,
it's like, to me personally, it'd probably be useless, but it is useful to, like, people like the FBI, obviously.
Yeah, I get you.
Like total gibberish to the untrained eye. But to people like Dan and his code-breaking team, these symbols and letters could mean there was a secret message hidden inside of these documents if you could break the code system. But, of course, no one could ever break that code. So, how in the world does a guy like Ricky, who is basically functionally illiterate and can only write his name, he's clearly mentally ill and he's not really in touch with reality all the time, how does a guy like that come to be in possession of these complex ciphers? And if he didn't write these ciphers, because that's possible, maybe somebody else gave them to Ricky, well, why would anyone who came up with this very complex cipher entrust a guy like Ricky to be the one to carry these things around? I mean, presumably they contain
my initial
confidential...
guess is that we were led to assume, due to him telling the nurse that he couldn't read, but I was kind of thinking that was just his diversionary tactic to try to spend more time there because he felt like he was safe there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But that's just a guess, too.
Information that's been very carefully hidden inside of the cipher. And so why give it to Ricky? He's such a liability. And also, what happened to Ricky in that cornfield? I mean, we don't even know how he got there. We don't know how he was killed. All we know is that he had these ciphers in his pocket when he was found. And so many people believe, including law enforcement, that the answer to, you know, what happened to Ricky and what was his connection to this drug lord in St. Louis, if any, or, you know, what was he up to, will all be solved if we can just figure out what these two ciphers mean. But as of right now, no one has solved the riddle of what these two ciphers mean.
I may be wrong, then. Like I said, that if you put that on the internet, it'd be solved within an hour, but I may be wrong on that one.
Well, even though, like, even all the stuff that you could have out there, there are still cryptic ciphers out there, like, that are damn near impossible to solve if you don't have all the pieces. I mean, it's just like a puzzle, dude. I mean, you can have, like, a general layout of the puzzle. You can have all of the stuff laid out, but if there are pieces missing, it's impossible to solve. And I think that's the case here. It's like, we don't have all the pieces, and because of the mishandling of the evidence, we're probably never going to get an answer to it. And it's probably just going to be one of those mysteries that just remains a mystery until something comes out.
It's because there's so many different combinations of things, most likely, that clever people can come up with to actually hide their messages within stuff, because you could look at that initially and be like, well, okay, clearly if I can find out that this letter means this letter means this letter means this, we'll be good to go. Yeah. But you never know. They could have thrown all kinds of twists into it, like, so every third T in our cipher is actually a red herring, and it's taken out of the actual end message.
Yeah.
Every, like,
and the numbers
S is like the same thing. Every 8 spaces you need to add a B unless it comes before blah, like stuff like that.
You know,
you could really complicate it, muddle it up without like having the actual answer to how to decipher it for sure.
So people were talking about like a numeric or an alphabet cipher, like which one would be more difficult to solve. Well, here's the thing about it. One digit of numbers can be either it's like 0 through 9. So that's 10 digits. That's 10 numbers it could be for one digit, right? Mm-hmm. But for the alphabet, that's 26. So it's basically more than 2.5 times the amount of different things that it could be for that one letter. So it, once again, and then of course you get the alphanumeric ones that are basically alphabet and numbers all in one. Holy shit, you're talking about like multiplied on top of like the infinite possibilities of what could be, of what you could come up with. And once again, a key phrase, like it, I really wish that there would have been a deeper investigation done on it. Like if the FBI would have stepped in immediately and would have collected more evidence, and maybe they would have found something to do with the key phrase. Maybe. I don't know.
There's also, like, I may be wrong, that it's not, you know, that it would be solved that quickly, but there's probably a group on Reddit somewhere that is trying to solve this.
I don't doubt it. I mean, they're probably using AI to try and make sense of it. See if there's patterns or anything like that. I don't know.
As technology evolves with AI and stuff, there's a lot more possibilities for an AI to possibly lend a hand in figuring stuff like this out.
Or go with me on this. These are just the ramblings or the scribblings of someone who just doesn't know how to write or anything like that, and instead he's just writing down random letters and random numbers just as like a thing. I don't know. I mean, there's so many unknowns with this that it's impossible to make a proper distinction. I don't know.
The other thing, too, is I'm sure they could have confirmed with his girlfriend whether or not he was actually illiterate as well.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, let's finish this up.
Is that Ricky McCormick, a couple of weeks before he died, became increasingly paranoid and was so scared of someone or something that he was likely running into these hospitals just to hide out. But eventually, whoever or whatever Ricky was scared of very likely caught up to him and killed him. But until we crack these ciphers, we very likely will have no idea what actually happened to Ricky McCormick. Today, the FBI has set up a special website where you can look at these two ciphers that Ricky had in his pocket, and if you're able to crack them, because someone's going to eventually, you can tell the FBI through this website and potentially help solve Ricky's murder. To go to this FBI website, click the link in the description below. So that's going to do it. If you enjoyed today's story and you want to hear more stories like it, be sure to check out our podcast called the Mr. Ballin Podcast, which has hundreds more stories, many of which are exclusive to the podcast. So if you want to listen to those stories, again, it's called the Mr. Ballin Podcast, and it's available exclusively on Amazon Music.
All right.
Now I kind of want to go look at it.
Me too.
See if I can do anything with it.
Hold on. Let's see.
I know it's like I'm not going to be able to do anything with it, but...
There they are. Jesus Christ.
I noticed there were fractions thrown in there in places, too.
Yeah.
And,
Parentheses. You keep going too fast.
Sorry.
NCBE shows up a lot in it.
Yes.
It's one of the initial patterns I noticed is NCBEs in there a lot. It's there. It was down there several times. NCB at the end of the parentheses.
Yeah.
75 NCB, 71 NCB, 74 NCB. I would be trying, my first theory would be to start trying to figure out what NCBE could be translated to as some form of measurement. And if I could figure that out, I would have a basis to start to go off of for guessing on some of the rest of it. But surely the FBI guys thought of that and tried the same shit and came up with nothing. Know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm looking here, just like, I'm trying to...
It very well could have been the scribblings of someone who just didn't know how to write or spell, and that's just how his brain processed the stuff, you know?
Maybe. Alright, I'm gonna look at the other one real quick.
But I'm assuming it's like kind of a list of like stuff. If it had something to do with a drug dealer, it was probably like, this is like the inventory of stuff that you are to bring, blah, 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 blah. You need to give this to blah, 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 pick it up. And at some point, he probably chickened out or something happened and he lost merchandise.
MKSE.
And then he
MRSE. NARSE. I don't know.
The way he's like, whoever it is like circled it and sectioned it off and stuff. It also just makes me feel like they're different orders of things.
Yeah.
Probably different orders of drugs.
Maybe. I don't know.
Possibly instructions as well. That right there, 1/2 mundle.
Yeah, 1/2
mundles.
Mundlessy. And then, of course, 99.84.
Could be a radio station, maybe.
Or it could be a weight. Yeah, 99.84 kilograms or milligrams.
It's an oddly specific weight of something in terms of moving drugs, though. They usually go off of... I mean, just my experience, it seems like drug
26, 35,
rounded
65,
stuff,
99. Oh.
How did that happen?
You probably bumped it with your hip.
No, I didn't.
I don't know. It happened, though. It's okay. So yeah, I don't know. This is one of those unsolvable things that I'm too dumb to solve. I mean, damn, it's gonna irritate me now.
It's really one of those things that I'm just like, man, I really want to sit down and mess with it, but I know that anything that I personally could think of, the FBI has already tried, so it's like, I don't know. But at the same time, I want to try it, because it's just kind of like, I don't know, like, maybe I'm smarter than I think. Who knows? It really would be pretty cool to at least get a award, if not like an offer, like, from the FBI at some point, you know?
Yeah, I'm just... Ricky McCormick and the cryptic notes.
Yep. There you go. I told you there's a Reddit thread on it. Post was deleted by the person who originally posted it. Just got done watching Mr. Ballin's video on it. Hell yeah.
Post over at R Codes. Okay. Damn. There's our subreddits are very, very interesting in terms of their just like how crazy it can go and how deep it can go.
Well, because it's interesting to me because there are people around the world that are like on a genius level with certain things. And
yeah.
A lot of them have Reddit accounts.
Yeah.
So, if you post something and someone gets it to the right person that just knows so much stuff about it, like a problem will be solved a lot of the times. It's pretty cool. It's like Reddit can be a really creepy place or a really cool place, just depending on what you're looking for. But in my opinion, the problem-solving aspect of Reddit is pretty neat.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So, anyway, that was Mr. Ballin's video on the dead man's riddle. It still haunts the FBI. It's still unsolved, and maybe it will be always be unsolved. I guess we'll see. But
see if you could solve it before me.
Yeah.
Competing with you to be in the FBI now, sons and daughters.
Oh,
I usually say son. I guess that was the proper
nanomachine, son.
Pluralize that. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that's gonna do it. Till next time, everybody. Y'all be safe out there. Y'all be good people. I'm Nate.
I'm Kate.
I'm Nick.
Take care.
Don't accept any shady codes from shady guys.
Check out Mr. Ballin's channel.
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Peace.